And welcome back to freebassguitarlessons.com, and as usual, if you're finding me on YouTube and not my website, there is the link to this lesson. It's a lesson on walking bass lines, something that gives a lot of bass players a lot of trouble. They can't figure it out for the life of them, but I'm going to tell you, once you get it in your noggin, you're going to have it forever, and hopefully this lesson will help you with that. So I'm going to play it over an F blues, key of F. And unfortunately, to figure out how to play a walking bass line, you need to know a little bit of theory. So what we're going to do, you'll see on the webpage that I have the chords of the F blues broken down into the into the notes in each chords. Okay, so you need to know these notes, and I'll tell you why after. So what you need to do first of all is you need to go through each chord, and you'll see it written out on the website there: F7, B flat 7. B diminished, F7, D7. You need to go through and you got to practice arpeggiating the chords. Okay, and arpeggiating, I mean this. Now, so if I got my fretless bass out today, I love it. I haven't played it in a long time. I picked it up a couple of days ago and restrung it and thought I'd be brave enough to play it on this lesson. If you're seeing this lesson, it means I didn't delete it and I didn't think my intonation was so bad. But hey, I'm going to put myself out there. What the heck? So getting back to that, that's the F7 chord, right? You practice that and then you practice it up. You got to practice it all over your neck, and then the B flat 7. And then we got the B diminished. Weird sounding chord, right? D7. Then a G minor 7. C7. And then back to the F7. So you need to know where all those notes are. So practice that. Now the reason why you need to know where all those notes are is that I'm going to give you kind of... It's not the secret of a walking bass line. It's something that I use, and it's what's in my head when I'm playing a walking bass line, and it's something that somebody taught me, and it's a trick. It's a trick that I still use, and it is this. To play a fluid walking bass line, you need to play a chord tone on beats 1 and 3. Okay, there's 4 beats in a bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 3 got to be chord tones, especially beat 1. Probably better if beat 1 is the root note. The root note, I mean, if it's an F7, play an F on beat 1. Can't go wrong. Beats 2 and 4, as long as you're not playing a ballad and you're playing really slow, so you're going to conflict with anything, beats 2 and 4 can almost be anything. Seriously. I will show you. So we got an F7 chord. I'll play 4 beats. Now I'll play the first 2 beats, the root, and then the 5th, the C. Now I can get to the C by doing this. Alright, so I played a B natural there. B natural is not in the chord of F7. Again, I played an E natural. E natural is not in the key. So as long as you're not playing a ballad that's really slow, you can get away with going. So there you go. Now it does help again if you know, again, you're playing a root note on the first beat. In this line that I have right here, I don't always play the root note. Sometimes it's the 5th. Sometimes it's the 3rd, but it's got to be a chord tone, definitely. So beats 1 and 3, chord tones. Beats 2 and 4. Anything you want, we're going to call them approach notes. Okay? So we're going to look at the what I call the turnaround, which is the last 2 bars of this. Okay, and it's you're playing an F. And it's F, D7, G, C, F. Known as the 3-6-2-5 in jazz. Okay, and it's once you start learning jazz, it's just a turnaround that gets you back to the root note very easily. It leads your mind back to the root note, right? So we got F, D, G, C, and the next note gotta be an F, just the way that your mind leads you through that progression, okay? So this is going to be a very good example of what I would call approach notes. And I'm going to approach each root note from a semitone away, okay? So these semitones are not in the key signature. That's why they're just called approach notes, but they sound cool. So instead of going F, D, G, C, what if I go a note, a semitone below each one? Let's try that. That sounded pretty hip. What if I go a note above them? That sounded pretty hip as well. What if I go, let's say, a fifth below them? I can't even do that. That's not even going to sound right. You can do that. But see, when I did it with the fifths, it didn't sound as fluid, right? What if I go a whole step below them? Not quite as hip. So getting those approach notes a semitone away from the chord notes that you want to play, the chord tones, really makes your bass lines fluid, and it makes them sound hip, and it will open up the whole fretboard, okay, a whole fretboard of possibilities, so to speak, for making a walking bass line. Okay, so that's really the secret to a walking bass line. So I hope you use that well. Okay, but before you can run, you got to walk, so to speak. So I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play the line here, and again, I'm gonna turn on my metronome, and then I'm gonna go through it slowly. And hopefully, like I said, I wrote these lessons a long time ago. If you've looked at any of my other lessons, I've told you that. So I'm actually just going to sight read this. I kind of know it. I probably should have practiced it before I did all this talking, because I'm playing my fretless bass, and that's a little way too fast. If I don't screw it up and have to edit it, let's do it at 140. You'll probably notice I'm going to look at my bass a lot, because try to want to stay in tune. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not so bad. I got a little bit fouled up there when I went through this one. Okay. But that gives you the idea. So let's go through it slowly. And, instead of going like this, these are all chord tones. Well, that's not. Okay, when you're playing just all chord tones, it doesn't sound as fluid as if you're using these approach notes, right? Okay. So bar by bar, let's take the first bar, and it's an F7 chord, and lo and behold, the first note I play is an F. Next note I play is an F. It's just an octafier. Next note I play is the third, and then we got, it could be called an approach note, but it's also the fifth. So that bar I play all chord tones. So it works quite well. It's all chord tones. The next bar, B flat 7, I play an A natural. A natural is not in the key of B flat 7, but it's an approach note because it goes right back to the B. And then a B natural. It's an approach note to the C in the third bar, right? The third bar is an F7. C is the fifth of the F7. It's the fifth note in F7, okay? So that's the approach note. B flat approaches to the C. And then we got another approach note, D natural, to the third beat, E flat. E flat is the seventh of F7. Okay, so there's actually no Fs in this bar of F7. So it's even more hip than you can imagine, I guess. I don't know. Okay, approach note. Playing a chord tone again on beat 1. Approach note on beat 2. We're on the root on beat 3. We're on F7. And then an approach note, or the third. Now I am on the last note. I'm pointing, but hopefully you're looking at this. The last note of the fourth bar up to B flat 7. Alright, so the first 4 bars are okay. Now let's start on the second line. Sorry, this lesson's getting pretty long, but it's okay, I'm into it. So the second line, B flat 7, starts on B flat. Goes down to the fifth. Fifth is an F. Okay, there's your approach note. Because I'm approaching a B. So, sorry, a G. So now, I just broke my rule that beats 1 and 3 have to be a chord tone. But rules are made to be broken, I guess. But it's a nice fluid line because it gets you really nicely to the fifth of the next chord, which is the B diminished. It's kind of funky sounding chord. So, and then it's just an arpeggio down. B diminished, and then we got our approach note on beat 4. Okay, so A is the third of F7. Then we got an F. And then again, breaking the rule, that's not a chord tone, but then it would be the ninth. There's actually kind of a hip note, and then an approach tone. Sorry, approach note to the third of D7. Okay, then so we approached the seventh, which is the C. Approach note C sharp, and then we're up to the fifth on the G minor 7 chord. So that is the second line. The second line is sorry, the second. Yeah, it's the second line down. Okay, now we are on the last line, which are 4 bars to the end of the G minor 7 chord. Approach note, the root. That's not really an approach note, but it is. It's the seventh of G minor 7. The seventh, and it is approaching the third of C7, right? There's the C7 chord. It's the third, and then down to D. More approach notes, and then the last little bar there. I almost kind of went through already. Remember, I played the turnaround. It's almost the exact same. Except it goes up an octave instead. So it's a little bit complicated. When I was going through all that, I was thinking to myself, this is getting really complicated here. But it is complicated, and you have to go through it note by note to understand it. And the only way to understand it is by doing it slowly and dissecting everything. So I'm really looking down. You'll notice the whole lesson. I'm looking down at the lesson here because I really feel that it's one that you've got to sink your teeth into and go through each note in each chord to figure out what you're doing and to figure out where you are in the bass line. And so if you want to, first of all, go through it, read the bass line, read the notes, get it under your fingers. It's not terribly hard. And then stick your metronome on and try and practice what I taught you about root notes, about chord tones and approach notes. And the best way to do that is stick to chord tones first. Try just root, fifth, fifth, okay? Root, fifth. Then try root, third, third. And then you could try root seventh, seventh if you want. Doesn't sound good. So that's kind of rough. But just to kind of go through that one, so you get the chord notes under your fingers. And then what you can try and do, instead of root, fifth, fifth, try and do approach notes. Okay, so approach every fifth by one semitone down. How am I going to do that? And do the same thing with the thirds. Oops, I really made a mess out of that. All right, and then try it from a semitone above, and then a whole tone above, and a whole tone below. And so you just kind of start building a line very technically, how you how you want it. You very, very technically, there is a semitone below each root tone, or each chord tone, or a semitone above each chord tone, and start doing it with roots and fifths, roots and thirds, then start mixing some sevenths in there, so that you can go through the whole exercise and just, play sevenths if you want, the whole exercise. 2, 3, 4. Doesn't sound cool, but at least you'll get in your head where the sevenths are in each chord. And that's where I'm going to stop. I know it's kind of a lot of information. This turned out to be a long lesson. But again, I can't stress enough to actually, to go through the notation in the lesson, read my words, read what I wrote. It's pretty much everything that I went over here, I hope. Again, for the millionth time, I wrote that lesson a long time ago. And post your feedback. This one's, if this is one you can kind of get in your head. Once you get it in your head, it'll always be there, and you'll always be able to do a walking bass line. Most important thing is you got to learn the theory. You got to learn the chord, the notes in each chord. And once you know that, then it doesn't really matter about all the other stuff. As long as you know the notes in the chord, you can just play chord tones, and you'll sound fine. But as you progress more, you will put in those what I call approach notes, and your bass lines hopefully will start to sound fantastic. All right, that's it. Take it easy.